The following production is brought to you by the Talkin' Buds Leaf Show.
Here we go, Talkin' Buds Leaf Show, emergency off-season edition. Our policy remains that during the off-season, we only get together, we only reconvene to do an episode when there's actual news to discuss. And Ryan, it has finally happened. The jersey that is behind me on the wall, something that you and I have talked about on this podcast for a long time. Even if you go back to the episode that we did after free agency, we talked about this for a long time. The insiders had it on Monday night. It was reported Monday evening that the Toronto Maple Leafs, John Tavares and the Toronto Maple Leafs were going to hand the captaincy over to Auston Matthews. And earlier today, they made it official with a news conference. John Tavares, Brad Treliving, Auston Matthews, making him the 26th captain in franchise history. And I didn't know this, the first American-born captain in franchise history. First of all, I'm really excited to get into this with you because it's one of the rare topics that I think you and I are on sort of different sides of the spectrum in terms of like how much it matters.
Mm-hmm.
But just give me your reaction when you saw the news the other night. I sent you a tweet from Chris Johnston that said at 11 a.m. they're going to call the press conference and make this announcement. Your thoughts on them actually pulling the trigger on this?
Yeah, I wasn't really surprised. I mean, I don't want to get into my side of it right now. I just kind of want to analyze it for what it is. It wasn't really surprising. I didn't really know what a good time is to do something like this. So I guess sometime in August when things are a little dead and training camps kind of right around the corner, this was the time to do it. But I mean, yeah, overall the timing it just came out of nowhere kind of, but not really a surprise either.
This is an attempt to make change in an off season where there hasn't been a ton of change. I've been a huge proponent of them making this decision because I'm somebody who's just like, I'm kind of done with the John Tavares as captain vibe. His quotes after getting eliminated by the Bruins in Game 7, the "we're right there" quote specifically just kind of put the nail in the coffin for me. Like, yeah. I'm over it. I'm big on the symbolism of this. Like, we can argue how much a letter on a jersey really matters in the grand scheme of things. But to me, it's just part of Auston Matthews, when all is said and done, will go down as the best player in the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Put the fucking C on the guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's time. It's just John Tavares is on the decline. We'll talk about Tavares and where this takes him in his career. But it's just like, I'm a big believer in the symbolism of this. I think this is his team now. It just moves him up in the hierarchy within that room now. After, like, he's the leader now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this move saying, now I'm on, what's that new website now that Cap Friendly's gone? Oh, I was on Puckpedia. Yeah. So I'm on Puckpedia looking at their salary cap, and I'm going through what their team's going to look like. And I'm going through their forward group, and it looks pretty much the exact same as it did last year. And I'm analyzing this move. I'll get into like what I think it means later, but just analyzing for what it is. It's a team that cannot do anything in terms of their roster. And I can picture Brendan Shanahan, Treliving, whoever's in that room coming up with an internal list of everything they can do that doesn't cost money against a salary cap that could somehow push them in the right direction and got to get them over the hump. And the first one was replacing the head coach. And the second one is taking the C off John Tavares and putting on Auston Matthews. So from that perspective, I totally understand. And I think you're right. Like, if you look at, if this guy's going to be the best player in this franchise history, which he will be if he sticks around, I think even now you could make the argument. Then yeah, it's something you do. You put the C on your best player. So in that sense, like it does, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. It makes all the sense in the world. I just think later there's just some things in the back of my mind where it's like, I really don't think it matters too much, but I'm not going to like beg them for it, like it does make sense. Just do it. It's another step in the right direction of changing the mindset, changing the juju around this hockey team. So from that sense, like, yeah, it's hard to bag on them. It does make sense.
Let's talk about John Tavares. I've ranted a lot about him in the last couple of years. Specifically, I said off the top that I was ready for his era as captain to be over. I'm ready to stop reading John Tavares quotes in the media. Having said all that and putting all that aside, I thought he handled this with the utmost class and respect today. I thought he came off fantastic today. He read the prepared statement that he had. It was beautifully written. You can say what you want about John Tavares, the hockey player, but you can't question John Tavares, the guy. And I thought that this was very much positioned today. They came out today with a very specific sort of, they wanted to convey that this was a passing of the torch. This was not, we're stripping John and we're giving it to Auston. It's John is taking the torch and he's passing it to Auston Matthews. And I thought he did that. Like, I thought he was spectacular today and how he handled the whole thing. Now, I think there's a lot of talk that I'm seeing on Twitter about a potential extension. And I think if you're him and you want to have these conversations about taking the C off, I wouldn't be surprised if it was followed closely with an extension talk. I'm not in the camp of wanting to extend John Tavares. I'm kind of at a place where, like, I don't think they, even if he's going to take a significant haircut, I'd like to move on altogether. Like barring like
what kind of haircut are we talking about here? This is what I think this is where the debate comes in. Like what type of haircut are we talking here? Because I think you and I are in the same camp of like, you want to sign this guy for $1.5 million bucks?
Anything more than $3 million. I'm not.
I don't even think he's worth $3 million.
Yes,
I know you could look at his production and compare him to other $3 million players, and it's like, yes, he is a $3 million player. I just think it's just so much more than like the production. It's like it's the same guys in that dressing room. And it's like, if this guy's going to stick around, like I need him to take the biggest haircut of all time. Go down to a 0, get the 5 blade out, shave it off completely. That type of haircut.
I also don't know that with his deteriorating skating, he's never been a great skater, and it's only going to get harder and harder. Like, if you're going to move him down the lineup and have him be a 3rd, 4th line center, you're going to need him to play a checking role at times.
Yeah.
And does he have the ability with his feet to do that? And I don't think he does. So again, I give him all the props in the world for handling this like a true class act, but I am not on board with this idea that, oh, well, this is a guaranteed extension for John Tavares.
This is a great PR move for him too. It's like,
yes,
look at good guy. Look at good guy, Johnny, reading this statement, handing it off. Like he's still a good player, but he understands where the future is going. Like, to me, there is no negative in this at all.
That's a good point. So I'm sitting here kind of, I'm focusing on the negative right now, but you're right. Let's focus on the positive. I think this will help get him out of the spotlight. He's already under tons of scrutiny for what his cap hit is. This means he doesn't have to talk to the media as much. This takes the pressure of wearing that letter off. He has to focus on having the best offseason he can, the best training camp he can, and being the best version of himself at this point in his career, and removing any sort of stress, taking things off his plate, I think will only help him. So I totally agree with that take.
And I think it's signaling the next transition in his career. He made that one comment today where he's like, I forget, I don't want to screw it up, but he was basically like, this isn't me like stepping back or whatever. Like I'm still I can't remember the way he said it.
He had a full-on sales pitch today where he was like, I still feel like I can contribute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm still competitive as always.
I don't think that was totally meant at Leaf Nation. I think that was meant to any team out there that like, should they not want to extend me, I'm a valuable asset to you and your franchise, and you, Mr. Team, can pay me $5 million.
But he has to be looking at the next, like, he has to be honest with himself. Like, I don't know how delusional he is, but it's like this is signaling the next point of your career where you're not the guy anymore. Like, you were a first overall pick, you were a franchise player, you were the captain of the Islanders, you got traded here, then you became the captain of the Leafs. You've always been considered like the best player on your team other than Matthews. And it's just like this. You look at your foot speed, you look at your production, it's getting worse every year, and you have to kind of transition to that next part of your career, which is going to be a bottom 6 guy.
Yeah.
Like that is he's not going to get better. Like, he's only going to get slower. He's got to get smarter, and he's got to change his game. He's got to look at, like, Corey Perry won an Art Ross trophy. I don't even know how many years ago, but like, look how that guy's transitioned his career. And I'm saying he is Corey Perry, but like, that's kind of like the model of, you were once a top 6 guy, a top line guy, and now you got to look towards the next part of your career where you're going to go into your bottom 6. And I think today was the official start of that, because you're not going to re-sign anywhere close with any team than what you have with the Maple Leafs. And it's just, I think it was a real honest moment of just being like, I got to focus on the next part of my career if I want to keep playing. I mean, he's not 38, he's not 40. I'm pretty sure he's 33 at the moment. And like, it's just, you got to face facts. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I need to just go figure out what's going to keep me in the NHL and keep me as a top player on good teams for the rest of my career. And I think today was the start of that for him.
What do you want to see out of Auston Matthews now with this change? Is there something that you need to see more of from him? Is there, I don't know, a certain trait that you'd like to see more of that you haven't seen quite yet now that he's the captain of the Maple Leafs?
I think the biggest... I was thinking about this. I think the biggest difference between him and Tavares in terms of being out in front of the media, I think John is going to go out and he's going to just be like, no matter how bad it is, he's just going to give like the stock answer. And it's just like it, and it almost comes across as like, is this guy delusional or is he just? And I think Matthews has a bit more of a fuck you attitude in the media. Like, if he's not feeling it, I feel like he doesn't cross the line, but you can tell like in his tone and the way he like answers a question that he can get like kind of pissed off and frustrated. So I think sometimes I think Auston Matthews doesn't do the best job of coming across as a genuine human being in the media, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Like, I wouldn't hate, because he's like the god here. Like, he scored 69 goals. He's the best player in franchise history when it's all said and done. I don't mind him coming out after a game if they played like shit and being a little snippy and just like kind of giving a little more. I want to see this team have like a little more attitude, and I hope he can kind of just like bring that. But I don't know if he has that in him. I've never seen him be the captain, but I honestly believe that he's been the leader of this team for at least the past like 3 years. Like, ever since the bubble, like this has been his team. Like, he's the best player. If he wasn't, like, I already believe that he was kind of the leader. Like, now you just put the C on and now you're going to stand up and talk. Like, that's where I think this thing ultimately doesn't really matter in the end. Like, Leaf Marks can geek out about, this is such a proud franchise and this is our 26th captain and it's an honor to be a captain of the Maple Leafs. And it's like, no, like, yeah, okay, but it's like, this team's kind of a joke. Like, you know, like, I don't think it really matters. If this guy wasn't leading already, then like, I just don't think a C is all of a sudden just going to make him Superman and just be, this is now he's the ultimate leader. Like, I don't know. Maybe he is getting older. Like, he also is getting older though. So that could be a factor of him being more open and being more of a vocal guy.
I'd like to see just a bit more raw honesty in the media. And I think that's where all of these guys have fucked up in the past. And I think, you know, we did the episode after they had locker clean out day, and I came on here and just lost my mind at some of the quotes coming out of like all of them, like Tavares, Matthews, Nylander. The only guy who consistently, I think, does the best job is Morgan Rielly. We're going to talk about Mitch Marner in a minute. The whole reason why people dislike Mitch Marner is for this very reason, is these guys don't show any genuine raw emotion. Like, this team, as we know, take nights off and has stinkers, right? That's going to happen this coming season. They're going to play on a Tuesday night against, I want to say, yeah, Minnesota. I was going to say Arizona. But
Utah.
Not anymore. Yeah, Utah. Yeah. They're going to play on a Tuesday night against Minnesota, and they're just not going to show up. And I'd love him to come out after the game and say, that was unacceptable. That was not good enough, and we need to be better. And we have expectations around here that we're going to be a Stanley Cup contending team, and performances like that are unacceptable. Instead of what these guys usually do, like Tavares, they all kind of do it differently, but it's all the same. It's never just directly addressing the issue. It's Tavares. Well, tonight's a really great lesson. And it's something that we can take away and we can learn. And then you have Nylander. We love each other. We love each other in this room. We love everyone. Then you have Marner. We know you guys are the ones criticizing us. We got belief inside that room, and we believe in ourselves, and you guys are the ones, and it's us against the world, and blah, blah, blah. And I would just like to see him set the tone and just come out at the beginning in training camp and say, we are here to try and win a Stanley Cup. Anything short of winning a Stanley Cup is we will walk away disappointed. Like, just fucking say it. And the best part? If you do say it, the people will eat it up. Everyone who hears that will just be in love with the guy for making that comment, and they all fail.
Yeah, that's
all
such a
of them
good
are
point,
terrible.
Man. That's such a good point where it's like they've just gone out of their way to make their lives harder.
Like how much did everybody love? And I know this is the example that everyone uses, but how much did everyone love Nate McKinnon saying, I haven't won shit in this league? Everybody loved that because it's raw, honest emotion. It's not defensive, right? And this is the tone I'd like to see him set with the rest of the guys. You don't have to do it every night. You don't but just when you feel like you need to make a statement, make the statement. Do it. Be a leader. Grab your team by the bootstraps and pick them up. Also, Auston Matthews in his last few playoff performances hasn't exactly set the world on fire. He did he had an injury against the Bruins and missed a few games last year, but it's not like he's been like William Nylander has been the consensus best playoff performer for the last couple of years. Yeah. So now that you got the C in the league, you can't do that anymore.
And then this is kind of what I mean about like, this is why I don't think it matters. It's like, yeah, he can come out and say something like that and it could set a tone, but at the end of the day, like it's just, they're going to be back in the same position they are every year in April, barring absolute disaster, because I just don't think any teams in their division who are lower them are going to jump them yet. I still think they're good enough team in the regular season to get there, but that's why it's just, is Auston Matthews, like, I just don't know if this is going to make a difference in the end. Like, it's a nice little story for all the Leaf marks out there who care about who their captains are. This is our 26th captain. It's like, in this era, like, I just don't think it matters. I think it's just, I don't know. I'm not buying into it. It's something they had to do, but I'm not sitting here feeling any better about anything. And that's just me. Like, I don't feel better about anything. I really don't.
I think
it's a cute little story, but I don't find anything. I don't feel better. I don't feel like they've gotten any better. I don't feel like they're really going to change that much. Like, is Auston Matthews wearing the C going to make Mitch Marner stop crying in the playoffs? Like, I don't know.
Okay, well,
like,
let's talk about it. How do you think this impacts Mitch Marner? He was there today with Morgan Riley sitting front row. This now throws like the alternate captains into flux. Like Treliving confirmed today that Tavares is going to get an A, as he should. I think it's ridiculous to take the C off him, not give him an A.
Yeah.
I personally think it's ridiculous. If you're going to take Morgan Riley's A away and give it to Mitch Marner, that shows you how much power Marner has within the organization. And if you're going to make Morgan Riley do the stupid thing that he's been doing that Marner's been doing with Matthews for the last few years, where they're rotating.
Oh yeah, did they do like the home and away?
That's also absolutely ridiculous. To me, Matthews is the captain, and the two assistants are Tavares and Marner. End of discussion. And I heard this on the radio today, and I had the same thought as well. Marner, after the press conference today, was asked about his contractual status, and he just gave the stock answer. I'm not going to comment on it right now. I'm really lucky to be in Toronto. This is where I want to be, yada, yada, yada. But one of the things that pissed people off and kind of put Marner in the place he's in now is during his last contract negotiation, him and his camp were very vocal, and it was heavily reported that they felt they were on the same level as Auston Matthews, and they wanted to be compensated the same as Auston Matthews, and he saw himself in the same category as Auston Matthews. This is the organization saying, no, you're not. and we don't view you in the same light as Auston Matthews anymore. This is putting Matthews on a higher pedestal than Marner. And I wonder, as the season plays on, how that dynamic is going to shift. Personally, anything to get Mitch Marner to just become more likable in the eyes of the fans, I think him and his camp should do. So give up your A. Every time you're asked about Matthews, just heap nothing but praise on him and go out there and play your game. Did you see the quotes from Zach Bogosian that have been making the rounds on Twitter, where he basically stood up for Marner and called him a stand-up guy and all that stuff? And he basically was like, I don't get why people dog this guy. And to me, he's missing the point, because people don't really dog Marner, playoffs aside. People don't really dog Marner for how he plays the game. People dog Marner for how he comes off as a person and for how he and his camp handled contract negotiations. He is the one who is the most perceived as taking the organization for every penny he possibly could. Fair or unfair, that is just the truth. And second, he comes off, as I said earlier, he comes off extremely standoffish in the media and never really takes accountability and is always turning it around. And I've always felt that he uses his criticism of the media. He says the media, but I really think he means the fans when he gives some of the quotes that he gives. So to me, this will be extremely interesting to see how he handles it. He, like John Tavares, has two roads he can go down. He can just use this to help him fly a little more under the radar, help build up some more goodwill in the fan base, have a really great season. And then maybe they are talking contract extension, and everybody is hunky-dory again. Or we're going to start seeing stories that him and his camp are pissed, and because they gave Matthews a C, he wants more money and all this kind of stuff. I know this is all hyperbole, but I think this really could go one of two ways.
Yeah, I think him and Auston I think their relationship is like tight enough that I think in the room, I don't think he's going to like cause anything. Like that's his boy. Like they're boys. But I could see, in terms of contract negotiation, obviously his agent is going to be looking at something different, and that's where kind of buddy goes aside. But I think Matthews, Nylander, and Marner need to take what I said about Tavares earlier, in terms of like, this is the next point of your career. Like, you're not blue chippers anymore. Like, you're not, like, you've been in the league for a long time now, and this is your time. You're getting older. You're getting married. Some of them are starting to have children. You're entering that next point of your life. It's time to grow up. And it's really, it really is. Like, it's time to grow up for these guys, man. Like,
yeah.
And I think for Mitch Marner, like, and like, it's just the rumor and innuendo going around with that guy, and the contract,
rumor and innuendo,
and just like the contract and the thing with his parents and the way he talks in the media. The guy has, and you made such a good point earlier. Like, all these guys have done is make their lives harder by the way
I don't know
they
if
have
they're
acted.
being coached to do that. Like, I don't know if that's I do think the organization plays a part of it. I think a lot of the defensiveness in the media is from Brendan Shanahan on down. And I think a lot of them come out, and I think the organization tells them this, you're not responsible for the fact that this organization has not won a Stanley Cup since 1967. And that's true. They're not responsible for that. But what that's done is that's created a defensiveness. So when you go out and you play like shit and you get eliminated in the first round again, and you no-show playoff games again, it turns into this defense. Well, we're not responsible for the history of this organization. Right, but you are responsible for the history of the last 9 years.
Exactly. And that's all it's
8 years, whatever.
What have you done for me late? Like, like, no one's looking back at 85 being like, man, that was the year. Like, it's just like, this is the time we're living in right now. And for the last, since you've been here, all you've done is fail.
No one's asking Mitch Marner to answer why Wayne Gretzky didn't get a penalty for clipping Doug Gilmour in the face in Game 6 of the West Final.
Exactly.
No one's asking him to answer for that.
I know, but it's just, I mean, Marner's situation is so, like, Tavares is pretty cut and dry. It's like, you're taking a haircut or you're leaving.
Yeah,
like that's basically what that is. Marner's situation is very complicated because, like I was having this conversation today. Like he is a great hockey player. Like nobody's saying he's not. Like if you consistently are kissing 100 points every single year and you're setting guys up and you're playing the power play and you're playing the penalty kill during the regular season, like you're a damn good hockey player. But it's just, again, the same conversation over and over again. You can't just sign this guy to another deal because we've seen it all. We've seen it happen. We've seen what happens. And it's just like, you really want to give this guy more money than what he's making right now, even though he is a great player? Like,
Ryan, for the love of God, I just pray. We all need to hands in a circle and fucking pray that what happened last year with William Nylander does not happen this year. Remember, like all through the early part of it's getting up. He's more expensive. He's becoming more expensive. It's becoming more expensive. You cannot do that with Mitch Marner. Like you absolutely cannot do that with Mitch Marner.
And I think another thing that people are not talking about as a sidebar is the pressure. I think William Nylander has a ton of pressure on him going into the season too.
Oh yeah.
It's like I'm looking at Puckpedia. The guy's signed till 2032. You better show up and have the same year you did last year, big boy.
Hayes was talking about that on Overdrive last night about how like these guys are all now much more expensive. Like this is the first year of Auston Matthews, the highest paid player in the NHL.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is. And I think with Marner, you got to set your number and you got to stick to it. And I don't care how good of a season he has. You cannot keep going down this road of getting bent over by these guys. You can't do it.
Man.
You can't do it. Can't do it.
No. It just doesn't work. And like you look at that number, it's like I don't obviously the guy's not going to take a pay cut. Okay. Like we all know that. Like in a perfect world, when we're playing NHL 24, we can give him a pay cut and he'll take it. But like this is real life we're talking about here. This guy's not taking a pay cut. He's not going to sign a contract with the same money he's making right now. He's going to look for a raise. So if they're going to keep this guy, if they want to keep him, it's going to be probably in the $12 million range. Like to me, that's what he's going to be looking for. And it's just like, you gotta just look at yourself in the mirror as an organization and be like, this guy's a great player. And obviously you don't want to let go of elite talent because everyone's looking for elite talent. Ask the Nashville Predators, who are literally moving hell or high water to find elite talent to help them get over the edge. But it's like, it just, you look at the past, you look at the history. It's like, you cannot not commit to this guy for another 12 million.
And you can't let his play through the first few, because this is the whole thing with these guys. And this is the whole thing with Mitch Marner specifically, is like him more than anybody else. Like at least with Nylander, you could look at him and say, you were excellent in the playoffs last year. And you've been a guy who in big games, like even this past series against the Bruins, like he missed a bunch of games, but then when he came back, he was one of their best offensive players. The whole thing with Marner has been that he fucking disappears in the playoffs.
I also think with Nylander, like he's also just been through a lot more.
Yeah.
Through his Leaf tenure, like kind of been like when Babcock was around, it's like we can't have Austin and Mitch together. And then it's kind of just been like, we're going to move heaven and earth to get Matthews and Marner together. And Nylander's been on the third line. He's been on the second line. He's been benched, like he's had it way rougher, and he's persevered, and he had just like an incredible season. And in the playoffs, you can look at him and be like, this guy's actually showing up. That's a huge factor for him.
Yeah.
And when you look at Mitch and you're just like, I know you do all these things. I know you're a very talented, versatile player, but like, it's just like, do I really want you around?
No, but this is what I mean.
For another 7 years.
This is what I mean, man. That's what I mean. Like he needs to win every sort of PR. I don't want to say battle, but every moment of PR he has this season, he needs to do well in. He needs to not talk at all about his contract. He needs to let his play do the talking. They need to not have any, like his camp. Everybody needs to shut their mouths and not let any sort of negotiation get out. And more important than anything, King Daddy Topper, when you get into the playoffs, you have to perform in the playoffs, and you have to not be afraid of the heightened physicality and the heightened intensity that happens in the postseason, because that is Mitch Marner's problem. He only knows how to play and be excellent when the game is played in one specific style. And when you play an opponent that doesn't allow you to play that style, it renders him completely ineffective.
Like this is just like making me laugh, man. Like how many? Like,
I know. Here we are again.
This is why I don't want him around anymore.
Yeah.
It's selfish. It's a selfish reason. I don't want to fucking talk about this anymore.
Yeah, I know. How many times have you
like
heard
how
me
many
go
how
on
many
this
times
rant?
have you said exactly what you just
Thousands.
said?
Thousands.
Literally like
Thousands.
500 fucking times.
Thousands
of
times.
I can't. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, and it's just I don't see it changing. I don't like. I mean, we haven't really brought it up. It's just like hopefully the biggest one. I know Matthews getting the C is very exciting, and hopefully that changes their attitude. But the only hope you have is that big dude behind the bench.
Yeah.
And somehow
so let's talk about that, because you sent me a text today watching the press conference, and you're like, I always forget about Craig Berube.
Yeah. It's just like kind of the he got hired, and then it's just been the off season. I haven't really thought about it, and I saw him today, and it's like there's the big kahuna.
Yeah,
there he is back there.
If you're gonna have, you're right, because to be honest, I don't like people who keep saying like, they haven't done much this offseason. That's not true. They did some really good work on the blue line. Like Chris Tanev is a massive addition to that blue line. So like they've done what they can do. Exactly. I think a lot of people, a lot of people were hoping for a Marner trade. Realistically, like I'm always talking about the realistic glasses. That was never fucking happening. No. Like we all got like hyped up about it, and when they get eliminated again, the emotion takes over, and you're like, they fucking can't run this back. And it's like they were always running it back. They were always going to make tweaks around the edges. Sheldon was always going to get fired if they got eliminated, and sure enough, he did. And so now you brought in Craig Berube, and your hope is that he can, doing what we said they should have fucking did last year, bringing somebody in and going, see if you can squeeze more juice out of the lemon here. Yeah. See if a different, more hard-nosed, no offense to Sheldon, but seeing if like a different, more hard-nosed kind of big boy coaching style will resonate with these guys.
Squeezing juice out of the lemon.
You got to, man. That's their only hope this year. And then you got to hope that your goaltending sort of like the goaltending, we don't need to get into like a whole huge discussion about this.
We'll have our preseason show.
Oh yeah, we've got all camp opens in like a month from now. We'll be back doing regular shows when camp opens, so we'll get into that there. But yeah, like the biggest factor is Craig Berube this year, 100%.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I don't really. Like is it a system that he can implement? Is it just the guy just commands respect and presence? It can kind of change the attitude. Like I don't know what it is, but you just hope it's something. And I know usually you get kind of like a first year boost from a good coach sometimes. Yep. I mean, he's in St. Louis and won the cup.
Guy.
Yeah,
he's a super intimidating guy. Super intimidating looking guy. And so I don't know if it's so much like systems. Like there's definitely things that need to be fixed. Like Mark Savard has his fucking work cut out for him trying to fix that power play. Yeah. Right. So there's definitely, I'm sure he'll make system adjustments and all that. But the reason why I like the hire so much is because he's such an intimidating guy, and he's going to bring a more sort of like workman, like you and I are not going to have very many Craig Berube quotes this year that we're going to be able to reference on the pod, because he's going to give you fucking nothing. Like he is not going to be like, he's rough around the edges, but he's not going to be the egomaniac quote machine that Babcock was. He's just going to be very like, actually, you know what? There will probably be some post-game pressers where his general demeanor will actually probably be like pretty funny.
Yeah, he'll have like the Belichick effect, where it's like his lack of answering will be kind of the new quote.
Yes, exactly. So I think all of that, and just bringing a more like no bullshit sort of vibe, is why I really like the hire.
Yeah, that's the only hope. Like to me, that is the only hope that anything can really get done. It's the only thing that you just hope that a whole new system, new coaches, new power play, Hopefully Chris Tanev can kind of revive Morgan Riley a little bit. Like there's so many like little factors, but ultimately is it going to, I know in April, we're going to be sitting here and we're going to be in this exact same position we are every year. And it's just like, here's all these little tiny changes that we have made because we have to be realistic. You're right. I think that's the number one word that Leaf fans need to just drill in their head. Like it's realistic. Tree Living came in here to fix a mess. There's only so much he can do. So we've done all these small, tiny little changes. Let's hope that all these little things that we've done can finally get us over the hump where we need to be. That's all you can hope for.
Well, just about a month until training camp opens, and then we are underway with season 7. Season 7 of the Talkin' Buds Leaf Show.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yep. Here we go.
Incredible.
Again.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to lie. Like,
there's nothing on TV, man. Like, I'm
nothing
literally I'm browsing. I'm like, there is fucking nothing on TV.
What are you talking about? The Blue Jays.
Yeah. I mean, I can only watch Will Wagner so much. Like
I'm ready. It's like preseason football's underway, and that's when you start getting in the mood, seeing that. And then before you know it, we'll be back to Saturday nights and Tuesday nights and Thursday nights. And
are you ready, though, man? Yeah. Honestly, like I am kind of looking forward to it. Like it is something that you have to sit down and watch. So it's like as much as sometimes you watch them play on a Tuesday and you're like, ugh, NHL regular season sucks. At least it's just like, you know what? I'd rather be watching the Leafs than browsing the guide looking for a show to watch. So I am looking forward to it.
Just strapping in for another 82.
It just goes by so fast,
man. I know. Season 7. Well, if you want to join us for season 7, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. We'll be back with our regular weekly cadence. Looking forward to it. Thank you to everyone who's tuned into our last episode. It's kind of weird when you do these summer episodes and you just kind of throw one out there every once in a while. And you're like, how's this going to do? Yeah. Is anyone going to watch this? But we had a lot of great comments and a lot of great feedback from our last episode. So thank you so much for doing that. Again, if you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you do so now.
Spread the word. Tell your friends.
We really appreciate it. Again, just want to reiterate quickly, if there is some sort of breaking news item that happens between now and the start of training camp, we'll be back and do an episode for that. I don't see that happening.
Are you ready for training camp or John Tavares?
Remember last year when we did like a post game for, I think it was like Kraft Hockeyville or something, and it was
in that tiny barn.
Yeah, against the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, Connor Timmins just looked like he was gonna win the Norris. The guy didn't play all fucking year.
No. Thanks everybody. We'll see you in a few weeks. We'll see you at the start of training camp.